We live in a constantly connected world, yet people have never felt more disconnected. You are watching Bullyproof, where we shine a spotlight on workplace bullying, today's silent epidemic. Did you know that 75% of workers will either be a target, witness bullying, or both? In each episode, we look at how individuals can bullyproof themselves and how leaders and HR can bullyproof their organizations. It's time to find your roar. I am Marilise de Villiers-Basson, the founder and CEO of Roar Coaching and Consulting, and the author of Roar, How to Tame the Bully, Inside and Out. Here at Bullyproof, we do not shy away from the things that get in the way of individuals and organizations thriving. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about toxic masculinity. And I'm delighted to welcome Dom Vogel as my guest today. Dom recently put out a post on LinkedIn, and I quote, "Men, let's drain the swamp that is the toxic culture of masculinity. This is 2021, for heaven's sake." Perhaps unsurprisingly, Dom received a heap of backlash, and I've asked him to come along today to tell us more about his experience and his view on toxic masculinity, specifically in tech and cybersecurity industries that are heavily male-dominated industries still today. Dom has 15 years of experience in cybersecurity. Currently in his role as Chief Strategist at Cyber.sc, Dom focuses much of his energy on helping startups and small to medium-sized businesses solve the cybersecurity challenge. He believes in the awesome power of uplifting others and being an active, positive troll. I can't wait to speak to Dom next. So I'm delighted to be joined by Dom Vogel today. Hi, Dom.
Hello, how are you today?
Very good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. I must start by asking you, what on earth is an active, positive troll?
Well, it's for me. It's I love the term positive troll. I'm trying to remember actually how I came up with it. It actually may have been someone in the UK who sent it to me. But I do believe in the power of positive energy, and especially on social media, you see so many negative comments, or anytime someone puts themselves out there, inevitably someone feels the need to shoot that person down. It's, for a lot of people, it's a lot of emotional stress to put something out there. So I think that, I love uplifting people, being a positive troll. There's too many negative trolls and not enough positive trolls. So let's keep building that army of positive trolls.
I love it. And we'll go deeper into this, because obviously the topic of today is all about, we're unfortunately still seeing cultures of toxic masculinity. And, we'll talk a little bit more about your personal experience. But I just want to say, as someone who actively follow you on LinkedIn and someone who are myself quite active on LinkedIn, I also appreciate very much all your positive encouragement. So a big thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, it really does lift me, all the encouragement. I think it's you're right. We need so much more of that in the world today. So as someone who have over 31,000 followers on LinkedIn, do you actually get trolled a lot?
Well, it's funny. I only get trolled when I put something out there which is I guess counterintuitive to what several older white males don't like. As I mentioned in the post the other day, I rarely get DMs. It's honestly, I could go weeks without getting a DM. And the other day when I spoke about the need to end toxic masculinity, and that in particular white males needed to stand up, my DM inbox literally blew up with angry, mostly older white males. I had never experienced anything like that before. It was quite surreal.
Wow. So I'm going to come back to that in a moment. But I also just want to, because I always think that you are such an amazing role model for everybody out there, just because you show us the normal side of Dom. You know, you show us the real Dom, and I love that. I love how open you are. So I really just wanted to first of all ask you, you know, who is Dom? What gets Dom out of bed in the mornings?
Well, that's a very good question. And right now, the thing that gets me out of bed is my toddler James, who he just wakes up whenever he wants to wake up, and he only wants me to wake up with him. So he is the current reason why I get up at any time of the morning. But as much as I love that, but what really motivates me in the morning is the ability to reach out and to connect and uplift people on a daily basis. The messages that I get from people who say, "Hey, you know what? Every time you say my post is awesome, or that you remind me of my epic awesomeness, that makes my day." You know, and when people say that, that to me gives me tremendous energy to do what I do for a living, which is cybersecurity, cyber risk management for small businesses. So I love the energies that comes from that. You know, it's absolutely fantastic. I'm really blessed to be in that position.
Yeah, and I think, you know, both of us being in cybersecurity and actually realizing how much cybersecurity is actually about people and about community, and really utilizing the strength of people to protect organizations, protect ourselves from the bad guys. I think so much more we have to really invest in people and relationships and community.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned the word community there. I think community building and surrounding yourself with that positive tribe, right? The people that can uplift you, that can regularly remind you, even when you're feeling low or if you're lacking motivation, of how great you are. You know, I think it's so important for people to be able to tap into their community and to actively establish their own supportive community. In the absence of community, often you feel isolated, especially during COVID. You know, so you have to rely on your digital community and as such.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, you know, I have certainly taken a lot of inspiration, you know, from the example that you've been setting. So again, thank you. Right, so we here at Bullyproof, we talk about the stuff that gets in the way. We don't shy away from talking about those things. And I think you alluded to the fact that you've obviously spoken out about your views on toxic masculinity. So first of all, I want you to tell me what is toxic masculinity?
Well, to me, toxic masculinity is the continuation of the I guess the belief of what it means to be a man, you know, and many men still I guess subscribe to the old school way of thinking that, you know, a woman's place is in the kitchen, and you know a man you know doesn't have to be an active parent in raising their kids, and that women should be marginalized, and that men are superior and women are there to serve men. That type of thinking, you know, that is being obviously pervasive through much of humankind's history, and I still find it incredibly shocking that, you know, we can send people to the moon and a craft to Mars, but here we are 2,000 plus years later, 5,000 plus years later, depending on your view on evolution, and we still can't reach gender equality. That to me boggles my mind.
That is, I mean, it does boggle the mind. And I think for me as a woman who are a minority in a male dominating environment, you know, if you work in technology and cybersecurity, you are very used to being the only woman in the boardroom. And it's something that you just get on with. You don't really think about it too much, but then you find yourself one day in a situation where you're just completely exhausted, and you realize, oh my goodness, I have been bending backwards to please everybody else. And I am, you know, going beyond, over and beyond, just trying to prove myself. And you realize that it's actually a very tough environment to survive in as a woman still. So certainly from my own personal experience. And so it's really interesting that you are kind of coming forward to talk about it and call it out. And I'm also intrigued with the negative responses that you're getting. It'd be really interesting to understand what were the sorts of comments that you were getting.
Well, it was like I said, just kind of mind-boggling. Because I've gone from maybe getting, you know, a handful of DMs a week to I think I got well north of 75, almost 100 DMs. Just like I said, from, again, it was mainly older white males, some of which said, "Oh, just stick to security. Stick to what you know. Don't be commenting on social issues and that type of stuff." Another person said that I was a racist for saying the way for labeling the person as white, which I felt was very relevant because it ties back to white privilege. Actually, I got a bunch of DMs that said I was racist, so that was interesting. And other ones just ranging from various levels of vitriol. Others saying, I don't agree, but I still like your content, which is nice. It's okay to disagree politely. But others that were, like I said, just quite full of vitriol and again, the fact that what was really eye-opening for me though was that I just had to endure that once. I know so many females that have to endure that type of garbage day in and day out. That to me was a real eye-opening thing. Was it tough for me on that one day? Yeah, it was. But thankfully, I've been blessed with a fairly thick skin, and I got a good laugh out of people calling me racist. But I can see how that can wear people down. And when I talk to female friends who have to deal with that. Like I said, day in and day out. If you think about that, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, that will grind you down. That will wear you down. And that to me was the eye-opening piece, that the fact that females still have to deal with that on a daily basis. That is true. That's just like I said, mind-boggling.
Yeah, and it is, it's as you say, it is so pervasive. It's so inherent in our cultures that a lot of the times, we're actually unaware of the biases that we carry as a result of years and years and years of nature and nurture. So I'm still curious a little bit more to know what sorts of things. I'm trying to really step into the shoes of the people who actually reached out to you and to understand the world from their perspective, because I'm like,
yes.
I always want to understand the world from other people's perspective, because I think that's the only way we begin to solve the problems in the world.
You're absolutely so right there, and that's why when in a response to those responses on an example on that post, I said, I just want to know why, I just understanding why is it that you think the way that you do, why do you feel that gender equality isn't something that we should be striving for? Why are you angry that I labeled and felt the need to say that this person was a white male? Why does that anger you? We're really trying to strip, again, the emotions out of it. If we have that open dialogue to have those conversations, again, this will allow us to move forward on these types of items, and the fact that no one was willing to engage in meaningful dialogue, and I said very plainly, if you say something with malice, if you're saying something with bad intent, I will block you. I will delete your comment. There's no room for that, right? There wasn't a single one that didn't resort to name calling or putting me down. It always resorted to that, and that to me is the sad part, and makes me realize that will keep being a struggle, because we can't have meaningful dialogue or meaningful debate on it, because inevitably it always resorts to someone calling a racist or a Nazi or what have you. That's always how conversations devolve, So that to me is a truly sad part as well, and the fact that they label these things saying, "Oh well, we don't always believe in all these new social issues," and I said, what? This isn't a social issue. We're talking about basic human decency, right? Females have a right, every much so that every male has. That's not a social issue. We're talking about a matter of basic human decency, and again, that it's a non-starter for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it is about human dignity. It is about dignity and treating everybody as equal and with respect. So I do a lot of work in this space around calling out sort of toxic behaviors in the workplace, and a lot of research I've done around narcissism, and I actually position narcissism as something that is a normal, pervasive human tendency. So we're all narcissistic. We all have a desire to feel special. you know, and I think that is so important to understand that narcissism isn't just this ugly thing, you know. So if you can start understanding that perspective, obviously it gets ugly, when there's a sense of entitlement present, or when people are willing to exploit others to win at all costs, you know. So when you're willing to exploit, that's when you go up right up the scale to the tens, where you have the, you know, the psychopaths and the bullies of the world, right? And it strikes me that someone who would come to you with those accusations sounds a bit to me like an entitled individual.
Absolutely.
You know,
entitled with a capital E. You know, and the other bit too, which I was trying. I don't. There's some people who believe in doing the right thing and human decency, but they engage with the people who don't believe that in a very destructive way, right? I don't believe in firing back and name calling and that type of stuff. You know, if that's part of someone's approach, that's fine. That approach personally, I don't A, believe in, and B, doesn't work for me. You know, and for me, when I again, you mentioned the word perspective, I was trying to view the world through their perspective, and to me, I realized that, you know, for them to think the way that they're thinking, they have their soul, the light in their soul has been darkened. Whether that's been through trauma, whether that's been through their upbringing, whether that's been through terrible life experiences, there is a reason they think the way that they do, you know. And that, to me, again, was the point that I was hoping to better understand through open conversation. And like I said, that didn't happen, you know. And on that particular post, you know, I sort of responded to the group of naysayers saying that I genuinely felt bad for them, that their soul is void of light, and that I will pray for them. And I do mean that. You know, I do hope that one day we can all have that light in our soul and we see the world the way that it should be, and the way that it can be, not the way that it is. You know, so it's like I said, it's so complicated on so many levels.
It is. But I also think it's not that complicated either, you know. So
strange dichotomy, right?
Very strange, because what when you're speaking, I'm listening and I'm thinking that's exactly if I think about the bully and I think about the behavior, one of the key characteristics was that he was never able to acknowledge how his contribution to a problem, his part in a problem. He would never take personal responsibility for his part in a problem. And what you're saying to me almost feels like a similar sort of tendency, that when you ask these people to really just explain to you where they're coming from, they didn't feel the need to justify themselves, because they just don't think they are part of the problem.
Well, exactly. And I'll give you a great example. There's a client of mine, and they don't. I'll abstract it enough that they won't know it, but then they probably won't be listening anyway. But the issue was that I was sitting in the meeting, and this is back when we could all be in person, and I was in the room with the director of IT and his team, and as you mentioned earlier, there, IT and cybersecurity, these are very male-dominated roles, you know, or in industries, I should say. And when I sat in the room there, because I was going to do some fact finding, and I was there to help the CIO. There was only one female, right? Well, I was in a room of mostly older white males, and one younger female. And I was asking various questions about the state of security and IT and what have you. And every time the female brought up a point, the director of IT felt the need to shoot her down or correct her. He didn't do that with anyone else, right? It was only with her, right? It was very, very clear, very early on that she was marginalized, and that her contribution to the team was not seen as equal compared to everyone else. So I felt the need to say to him, why are you always just picking on her? Anytime anyone else on your team says something, you don't say anything, but if she says something, you feel the need to correct her or to add on to what she's saying. Why is that? And he denied that, and I said, well, no, it's happening. I'm seeing it, and I said, well, maybe we should discuss this later, And so I discussed this with the CIO, who is thankfully a female, and she said, yeah, it's one of the things I've noticed. And I said, I'm glad that you noticed that as well. And so then we ended up having a larger discussion with the director, and then he ultimately gave an apology. But the wording, and this is what sort of triggered in my mind what you were talking about, was again the not taking responsibility. In his mind, he was apologizing for. He kept saying, if I made you feel bad, if this happened, or I'm sorry you reacted this way, right? He was putting it back on her. And that's not an apology. That's not taking responsibility, right? That is still absconding yourself from the fact that you're basically implying, I'm sorry you couldn't emotionally deal with the way I was treating you, right? That's basically what he was saying, and that's just terribly.
Yeah, no, that's very that's classic. That is classic behavior.
That's textbook stuff, right?
I wouldn't label the individual as something, but I think that's classic. I think that's classic bullying behavior. I'll just say it out loud. So that's really interesting, and I think that is a common experience of a lot of women in the boardroom. I think I hear so many stories of female execs who would say, they've made a fantastic recommendation, and only like 5-10 minutes later, a male colleague would make the same recommendation, and then suddenly it's the best idea ever.
Yes.
But for some bizarre reason, she was ignored, and I think it's important, therefore, that we bring those male allies like yourself into the room, so that when we say things, when we speak up, that we have the allies to actually back us, and I think that's so important. And then I always give this advice to the women I coach, because I'm like, you have to make sure that you speak up, but that your voice is heard. And if that means you need to bring in an ally, a male ally, then do it.
Absolutely. No, and back to that example as well. The other eye-opening / disappointing piece as well was that when I spoke with the rest of the team, the male colleagues, many of them told me, yes, we know this is an issue. We have spoken with her. We've told her that we support her. And I said, well, do you? I said, none of you said anything during that meeting. Right. And I said, well, generally after he embarrasses her or something, we console her, we talk to her after. I said, that's not supporting. You need to actively call that out, right? Next time that the director picks on her, stand up and say, you can't treat her like that. And, or say, if you're going to treat her like that, treat us like that as well. I said, there's no such thing as a silent ally. Silent ally is an oxymoron, right? You're either an ally or you're not, right? You're not doing so in the shadows. Right, that's like someone who says, "Well, I'll be your friend at your house, but when we're out in public, I will not acknowledge your presence." Right, that's not a true friend. Right, that's no different in this case here. Right, there's no such thing as a silent ally. You have to be an active ally.
100%, and I think that's so fantastic that you're highlighting that. And something you also said earlier, which really I sort of giggled a little bit, because I was like, oh, you made the classic mistake that I also used to make when I tried to interact with my bully. Was like, you started your question with why. I'm just like, never start those questions with why, because obviously is, why do you feel the need to treat me like that? And immediately get those people's backs up,
I know.
So,
I'm still learning.
And it's a really important learning point, and that's why I wanted to highlight it in this conversation, because part of the art of influencing other people is the way in which you respond, and the way in which you can respond objectively with a calm demeanor, and really just curiously trying to understand.
And you're sure right there. I think it's the and you're absolutely right. I just so vividly remember you can almost feel him being defensive the way I worded that question. And to your point there, using at least some words to to make it soften things, like you're saying, out of curiosity, or could you explain why? I guess different wordings, and again, what I even in what I do now, I am always trying to learn how to best address those situations when they arise, and you're absolutely right. And I think that's true for any good ally, is that you make sure that you have the right tools in your tool belt. So when those situations arise, that you can actively make the situation better, that you're not just, making it a standoffish scene or what have you. So you're absolutely right. I think that's important for any ally to be continuously learning how they can be truly effective as an ally.
Absolutely, and that's why I created my ROAR process, my 4-step process, because it is really designed to have a difficult conversation. So it's having the difficult conversation with yourself in a ROAR, but it's also having the difficult conversation then with the difficult person. And it's really recognize, observe, assert, and redirect. And so you recognize the behavior. You observe, you stay present, you listen, you really stay present. I think that's so important, because the moment you get thrown off, and I think classic bullying behavior is very startling. It's like it comes from left field. It's not always something that you're prepared for. So it's almost like you're always going to be on your guard, right? And then the assert. So when you then respond, the assertion is so important, because that is where you really either you ask a question back because you need more context, you need clarification, or you say, this is how it makes me feel, because nobody can really argue with how something makes you feel. And then, of course, the final R is about redirecting the conversation, so that you're not focusing on the individual. So you take the individuals out of the conversation, you make it about the outcome, and you make it about, we're all working towards a mutual outcome, and let's create those mutually beneficial outcomes.
Yes.
I think it's so important. So that's one tool. You've mentioned the tool. So
I love that acronym. That's an awesome acronym.
I'll offer that as one toolkit, a tool that you can put in your toolbox. And I just want to also just reflect on the people that have sort of reached out to you who didn't feel the need to actually respond. I think it doesn't matter how you ask the question, Dom. Whether you ask, it would have, they've responded the same way. It's just because sometimes you just deal with people who are not willing to move, who are not willing to be influenced, and as you say, or possibly carry some dark shadows from their past, which makes them deeply insecure, and that results in the behavior.
Absolutely, and that's why I think it's interesting to try and figure out, of those that are current non-believers, what percentage of them are ones that we can actively convert, for lack of a better term. And that's sort of the question I was pondering after that, sort of in the aftermath of that post, was, of those that didn't agree, are they all, because there's always going to be a percentage that we'll never be able to convince otherwise, but of those that are those current non-believers, what is that percentage where, through the right dialogue, asking the right questions and engaging in the right way, can we lead to, like you said there, lead to that optimized outcome? And that's the bit that I still ponder. I'm not sure what that percentage is. It varies by area of the world.
I think, and that's the thing, is I don't think there is one fixed percentage. I think there's always going to be, and I mean, it's known that between 1% to 2% of the world's population are born psychopaths. So it's not even nurture, it's nature.
It's nature.
And so we can't really fight that. You can influence positively so that they don't end up killing. But, there are so many variables in the whole thing that, it's just, humanity is complex, and behavior is complex. And I think at the end of the day, you'll always have these questions about why people do what they do. You know, I think it's fascinating. It's my life's work, and I find it absolutely fascinating.
I think it's absolutely amazing that you know, in the series that you're doing here is just so enlightening, so empowering, and I just want to thank you for doing the amazing work that you do. I think it is truly enlightening. I've learned from each and every one of the interviews that you've done so far.
Oh, thank you so much, Dom. I really appreciate that. And I think for me, it's, you know, it's really highlighting, as I said earlier, we don't shy away from talking about the stuff that gets in the way. And it's not to be doomy and gloomy, but it is really just to show that there is this side to the world, and we do want to shine the lights, as you said earlier, which is so important. So what can we do? What can we all do? What is the little thing that we can all do to move forwards, to make this problem go away?
Well, to me, I go back to that term of being an active ally. You know, and again, my perspective as a male, you know, to me, again, I think ultimately this is a problem that needs to be solved by men. You know, it's you know, I know you hear some men say, "Oh, well, you know, that's women, up to women to solve." Well, no, it's not. You know, the oppressor in this case continues to be men. So I believe that the true solution lies in men realizing that they need to be active allies, right? And again, the ones that again will do the part to make progress, they need to go from being bystanders and silent allies and being actively involved in changing the culture, in making that type of progress, and truly striving towards true gender equality. You know, that to me is the biggest improvement gain. Isn't going to be from converting those who are who will never be converted. To me, the true answer is in unlocking those that aren't sexist, but are ones that have not done enough things actively to change the current landscape. That's where we need to harness that energy, like turning people from silent allies to active allies. That, I believe, is how we'll truly solve this problem.
I absolutely love that. And I do think there is something women can do as well. So I'll offer something as well before we wrap up. I think as women, we've become so conditioned to be strong and independent women, that we actually always think that we've got to do everything ourselves. And so what I would offer to women out there listening and watching today is really to ask for help. I think it's so important. It's the hardest thing to do, is to acknowledge that, you know, we aren't superhumans. We also just sometimes need some help, but being able to ask for help. I think that would be my big thing, and the big lesson that I've had to learn the hard way, believe me, is to really just to ask for help.
I love that, Marlies. I think that to me, again, when you take those two approaches, again, from those two perspectives, that to me, again, is how we can harness some serious awesomeness and truly strive towards true gender equality. You know, and I couldn't agree more. You know, and it's the other thing too, which I would say as well, is that again, I know that many women have been scarred just from negative experiences they've had with men, and as a result, you know, they cast all men as being in a bad light. To your point there, I think it's so important that women do reach out for help. Find those active male allies, right? You don't have to go this alone. Again, they're not, I mean, it's easy for me to say, but we're not all that bad. No, there are good men out there. You have to find them. And then when you do find them, you know, ask for their help. And then together, as a true community, we solve the problem.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, I'm always the first person to say that, you know, I have the most amazing 3 men in my life, my husband and my 2 boys. And, you know, I couldn't have asked for a more supportive husband who just absolutely supports and cheerleads me on every single day. And, you know, I just I count myself as one of the really lucky women, you know, but I think he's lucky too to have found me. And I think that's the healthy balance, right?
Yes.
And that's the
100%.
narcissism I was talking about.
100%. And I love being your positive troll from here in Vancouver, Canada.
Wonderful. Woohoo! Listen, you know, as always, we run out of time. Like, it feels like we've only started this conversation. We've only scratched the surface. But thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you and all the amazing work you do. Thank you for being an active ally. So tell people, where can they find you if they want to get in touch?
Best place to reach me is on LinkedIn. Just look up Dominic Vogel, Dominic Vogel. I'm the only one on LinkedIn. That's the best place to reach me, or just engage. You'll see me engaging with Marilyse's content, so you'll see one of my awesome comments there. So you can just reach out via there. But I just want to reiterate to you, my friend, truly humble and grateful for your friendship, and very, very thankful for you giving me the opportunity to be on your amazing show. I truly appreciate it, and very humbled by it.
Thank you so much. Wow, what a super insightful discussion we've just had. I hope you found it as useful as I did, and I hope you will become an active ally for women in the workplace. Become part of the solution. Join us again next time for some essential insights on Bullyproof. If you enjoyed today's episode, do not forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. And we'd love to hear from you, so please do get in touch at www.marilise-de-villiers.com. Until next time.